Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be talking about a storm system that will bring winter storm-like conditions across parts of the northern plains in the Midwest. Could see at least several inches of snow for those regions. That same system is going to move further to the south, could bring a massive winter storm across parts of the Northeast, maybe in the parts of the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, possibly as far south as parts of Georgia and the Carolinas as well. There's still a decent amount of uncertainty with the system here, but we have gotten to a better agreement today with this system as well. So this is going to be an updated video with this system here as well. Before we get started with this video, if you guys do like weather related content, you can always subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time. Plus, we're likely going to have more updates on the storm system as well. So if you're going to want more updates, you can always go ahead and hit the subscribe button. You can hit the bell notifications to get notified whenever we get a new upload on the channel as well. We're going to start with a watch warning map display. We got winter storm watches in effect for parts of the eastern Dakota, southwestern Minnesota, most of Iowa, even getting into a couple counties in western Illinois and far northeastern Missouri. It's a little bit uncertain if these here will get expanded a little further south here. It does. The uncertainty does increase as you get deeper into Missouri and Illinois, but it may pick back up in the lower Ohio Valley region. So we'll check out a couple of those models there in a little bit. But what I also want to note here is that there is flash flood watches in the northwestern part of Washington. That's going to be our system right now, and it's currently making on shore to parts of Washington and British Columbia right now. And at this point in time, we are going to get some weather balloons into that storm, and whenever we do so, all that data there will go into some of these weather models, and we should get a really good idea on the system here tomorrow. Right now, the models I'm going to show you guys does not have the data of this system here, so just to keep in mind of that. So some of these models here may need to be taken as a grain of salt, just to keep in mind of that. But let's go ahead and check out the models. So we're going to get started with the name model. We're actually going to get started with the winter storm potential across parts of the Northern Plains, the Upper Midwest, because that's going to come first. So then again, here's the name. Here comes your storm system right here. And really by, let's see here, Friday morning, your low is probably somewhere in South Dakota. You got a pretty good band of some heavy snow on the northeastern quadrant of the low, and some of these places, if you get underneath that band, you could get snow for hours out of it, and that could lead to some elevated snowfall totals. And then eventually at this point here, you'll have two pieces of energy coming together here in the southern plains, and eventually this is going to become a more organized system, and it's going to swing into the deep south, which you'll see that right here. And then this is kind of the max end of the run here, and has your surface low kind of on the southern end of the Mississippi and Alabama border. But you do still see a band of some heavy snow on the northern side of it as well. So this is then again going to be a system that's going to be very interesting to watch, especially for areas up here as well. It's also going to be very interesting for them folks as well. Here's a high-risk Canadian. It actually did a really good job on the last winter storm in Kentucky, so we're going to check this one out as well. And you do see here, it does have that very similar scenario. And one thing I do notice here, checking out this model run here, it's actually a little bit more ramped up earlier on, especially when it gets into Mississippi, especially when you look early on, had a pretty good band of some snow earlier on for parts of eastern Dakota, southwestern Minnesota to Iowa. But really, um, late Saturday night into early Sunday morning. One thing I do notice here with the highest Canadian here, then again, it becomes a little bit more ramped up. It's actually got some heavy snow on the backside of the system as well. So I'm going to be very interested to see what this is going to show next here on the next run, which should get at least parts of the lower Ohio Valley kind of in range here with the snowfall potential as well. Maybe kind of the future for parts of Georgia and the Carolinas, which you could do see here. It does show some snow currently ongoing in the higher elevations in northeastern Georgia and parts of the Carolinas as well. That's something you call a cold air damming effect, and it usually kind of comes from the north here. You notice here that there's these isobars here, and you can see here how it just kind of funnels into the storm here. So that's kind of your cold air damming effect, and the Appalachian Mountains helps with that as well. So it brings colder temperatures to the surface, but in the upper levels, you got winds kind of coming from the southwest. Now, severe weather terms, that could be wind shear, but with a winter setup like this, you do get a warm air loft, which I'm going to show you guys in some of the future model runs. You're going to see a pretty nasty ice storm out of this. So I'll show you guys that in just a moment. But kind of backtracking a little bit here, trying not to get too far ahead of myself here. How much snowfall is Harvest Canadian suggesting? And there's a lot out there. Certainly there is. And you can see here the snowfall maps has got up as high as 17 inches of snow. It could be one of those storm systems where it may overperform a little bit here. And these models here have been showing pretty high snowfall totals for a while, and this is the highest I've seen here. And then again, the Harvest Canadian nailed the last storm, and showing 18 inches of snow. That's quite a bit of snow, and it's also interesting as well. It's even got a pretty good swath of snow getting down as far south as Iowa, but it seems like them snowfall maps really back off when you get into Missouri. But eventually, at least for the southern part of Missouri, the snowfall maps are likely going to pick back up as well as that storm system really starts to get ramped up as well. And checking out the NAM with snowfall totals, it also has some pretty good snowfall totals. But okay, I've never seen this part, but southern Missouri. Now I think that's going to be an outlier, in my opinion. I mean, 2 feet of snow in southern Missouri, I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm also been hinting on the possibility for maybe a little bullseye somewhere in this region here, especially in the parts of southwest Kentucky where the GFS had a little bit of a bullseye there for a while. So this might be another area to keep an eye on very closely as well for the potential for maybe some pretty elevated snowfall totals. But then again, it's still a little far out to really get deeper into detail with that as well, especially when you don't have actual data here for these models here to use, as well with what the storm system's actually going on right now as well. But the further north you go up here, it also shows quite a bit of snow as well. There might be a couple areas that may manage to get at least a foot of snow out of this. It's certainly a possibility, but I think it's going to be a widespread, probably anywhere from 7 to at least 10 inches of snow. Probably 9 to 12 inches of snow. There'll be some isolated areas that could get over 12 inches of snow as well. So it's certainly going to be a lot of snow falling for those areas as well. And don't be surprised with those winter storm watches. You guys will get upgraded to winter storm warnings as well. So it's going to be very interesting to watch for these areas up here as well. So if you do live in parts of the eastern Dakota, southwestern Minnesota, into Iowa, just be prepared for a big snowstorm out of this. And it's been showing something like this for a while. It's been very consistent, and we are getting better confidence with this as well, especially with that low track. There's actually no uncertainty with the low track with this one here as well. Okay, so we kind of got that out of the way. Let's move on to the GFS. The GFS has been kind of the leader with this, and I'm saying kind of because we are starting to see some changes this evening here, and I'll show you guys that. So then again, there goes your big wave of snow moving across the lower plains, the upper Midwest. You notice here when it gets down into the deep south here, this is the point where it really starts to get ramped up. You got an area of heavy snowfall for northeastern Arkansas, southeastern Missouri to southwestern Kentucky. And at this point in time here, you got an upper level low situated in northwestern Alabama, but then another low is expected to develop somewhere in southwestern Georgia. This one here is going to take the energy from this one here, or in other words, the upper level low is going to pass on the energy to the southern low as well. And eventually, when this low here dissipates, you'll start to see that this storm here really starts to intensify as well, or in other words, gain quite a bit of strength, which you'll certainly see here. And like I was talking about earlier in the video, nasty ice that's showing up here. This could potentially be a significant ice storm. Now, it's a little bit uncertain with ice amounts, but just by looking at this, we could see pretty high uh, ice ice amounts. So that's going to be a big concern with this system here as well, is the icing situation. The upper level low is still surviving there. Within that upper level low, there is some showers going on. It's just going to be just warm enough for some rain showers. But surrounding the low, especially on the northern end, check out that heavy snow in central Kentucky. That's quite a bit of snow falling there. And then as soon as that low dissipates, you'll notice here this low here really starts to gain some strength, as well as this low here passes the energy to the other low here. And that's what's going to happen there. You kind of have that transfer in there. And then here's Monday morning. You got severe weather going on out in the Atlantic Ocean here. And meanwhile, on the northern side here, you got multiple rounds of heavy snow with it as well. There is a possibility that some areas in here, especially in the parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, maybe in the parts of New Jersey and Delaware, you guys may periodically change over to rain as well. As this low here really starts to gain strength. At the same time, not only it's pulling in a lot of moisture, but it's also pulling in some milder air as well. So that's also going to be a little bit uncertain as well. And it also really depends on the track, especially if you live along the coastline here. If it stays a little offshore, a lot of areas could experience snow. But if it's going to stay on track like this, areas along the East Coast, you guys may transition over to rain, especially when we get up into the Northeast as well. So that's something we need to keep in mind of as well. Also, the storm here will also have very strong winds as well, especially on the northeastern quadrant here. You see those isobars are very close together, especially in parts of New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. That's an indication of some strong winds. This could also certainly lead to some coastal flooding as well. So we do need to watch for areas along the East Coast, probably as far south as Virginia and North Carolina. We could certainly see some coastal flooding for those areas as well, which we'll check out the European model with those surface-based wind gusts in just a moment. But GFS shows a pretty big storm regardless out there. Check out the Canadian model. This is done. It did a really good job on the last system back into Kentucky. And I believe, I'm not pretty sure about the Northeast, but I know in my area it nailed it as well. And you know what? It kind of falls along with the footsteps of the GFS. And oh yeah, by the way, at the same time, on Friday, we could see a big storm system blow up off the East Coast, and there might be a chance for some snow, maybe for far eastern Maine, maybe for parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts as well. So that's something we need to keep in mind of as well. And if that does trend to the northwest, this can also be a pretty decent snowstorm for some of those areas as well. But for right now, confidence is pretty low with that. Anyways, going back to this system here, it does have some similarities to the GFS, but it's a little further to the northwest with it. It's also got quite a bit of rain showers going on in this area in here as well. That's what happens when you have a stronger upper level low. Pulls in a little bit more of milder air. And whenever it dissipates, temperatures do cool down as well. Then finally, it kind of transitions over to all snow as well. But you also notice here at the same time, pretty nasty ice event may be a possibility for parts of the Carolinas. I think it could get as far southwest as parts of central Georgia, for central South Carolina to North Carolina, and probably into central Virginia as well, is where we could possibly see that significant icing event as well. And those is or in other words, we can see an ice storm in those areas as well, especially with that cold air damming effect as well. And you can see here, as soon as that low dissipates, the storm right here, with the low that's further to the east, really starts to blow up as well. So very similar to the GFS. And the GFS has a little shift to the southeast as well, by the way. In the Canadian model, this is 12Z run. We'll see if it follows along with the GFS as well with it. So this is the European model. So it's also trended a little further northwest, at least with the 12Z run. Now I can't show you guys this, but what I could tell you is that on the 18Z European model run, it has trended a little further to the southeast as well. But that is just one run. Keep in mind that. That is just one run. I mean, the GFS Ensembles has done a similar way, same way to GFS. I'm not really buying it for right now for that southeast trend. Just given the fact that number one, we do not have any uh, data from the current storm we got going on. We don't have weather balloons up there into the storm just yet, so we don't have that. Number two, it's just one model run. The only time the models have done this is at the 18Z time frame. So don't let that southeast trend fool you, because either one of those, it could go back to the northwest. It may be an interesting southeast shift, but don't pay much attention to it unless if that continues on into the 0Z and the 6Z time frame. So just to keep in mind of that. One little shift like that's kind of pointless to really say that, to be honest with you. As it's just one model run, it's just one little shift. But anyways here, kind of checking out the 12Z Euro, it's a little further to the northwest with the 12Z run, but like I said, on 18Z run, it actually shifted a little further to southeast. It doesn't go for the entire event, but from what everybody can tell here, it only goes as far out as hour 90 with the 18Z run. Had the low like down in southern Alabama, and you can see your 12Z run had up in central Mississippi. What that tells you is that not only is first south, but it's also a little bit more progressive with the system as well. So that kind of moves it a little further south with it. But then again, we'll see if it continues with the 0Z run as well. That's whenever it can go through the entire event. But something we do not like to see is that freezing rain. See that hot pink color in South Carolina? That's freezing rain. And that's moderate to heavy freezing rain. Hopefully the European model is not right about that, because if that verifies, it's going to be a nasty ice storm event for them folks down there. And I could eventually get up into central Virginia as well, so it's a decent area that needs to watch for that potential icing event as well. Meanwhile, on the backside of the system, you got a lot of snow going on, even on the leading edge as it moves to the north. You got a period of some heavy snow possibly as well. And unfortunately, for some areas, that could change over to either freezing rain, sleet, or even worse, rain. So you also got that potential factor in there as well. So some of that snow might melt a little bit as well. Well, mainly for areas for rain, but sleet, freezing rain, it won't. But for areas that change over to rain, some of them unfortunately will melt. But we are still a little ways away. That could change. Keep in mind that. Pretty interesting solution there from the European model as well. And let's kind of check this out in a little bit different view. So this is all windy right here. This is the same model here, same model run. You can see here as it takes it a little further south of it, there could be some severe weather potential in Florida. And I'm saying there could be. Not 100% certain on it. At 12Z, it actually has no instability down there. It does try to show a little bit of instability later today on Sunday, but overall it doesn't show much of anything. Gfs is a different story, but it's a little further out to sea as well. But a little bit early on, it does have some instability for the southern part of Florida. So there could be some severe weather potential, at least for southern Florida, especially in the morning hours on Sunday. So that'll be interesting to watch and see what would happen there. You can see here the system here moves to the northeast. The winds on the surface are going to be strong. This is your surface-based wind gusts, and just to the northeast side of the low, some pretty strong wind gusts, at least 60 miles per hour shown by the GFS. European model's a little slower, but it also has stronger wind gusts with it as well. So this is going to be another problem as well, is the fact that we are going to have some strong winds, especially if you're going to be along the east of the Interstate 95 corridor, especially. Could see some strong winds out of this system as well. And at the same time, you can see coastal flooding as well with these strong southeasterly winds. And that kind of pushes some of that water along the coastline as well. So that's another threat we need to keep an eye on, is that coastal flood threat as well the system will bring as well. And you'll definitely notice here how the system here really intensifies here if you look to the 500 millibar winds. And as soon as that upper level low dissipates, as soon as this trough here because negatively tilt. The storm here will really gain a lot of strength, and there's a lot of divergence out ahead of that storm as well. So that's going to lead to some lift, and that can lead to a very large uh, snow shield on the northern side of this. That's another thing as well. Unless dry air could be a factor in there, which I don't think so. But it's certainly going to be a very impressive system either way. And I'll show you guys the other models. And the GFS is pretty similar with that as well. Let's check out the Gfs Ensembles here. Something I like to use here for systems like this. You can certainly tell here there's two different lows here in this picture here. This also moved a little further southeast, but then again, that's just one run from a couple of these models. So I will not necessarily say it's a trend just yet. I would rather wait for 0Z and 6Z to come out. If it does continue to show that, then that's when I'll say it'll be a trend. But anyway, you can see here it's got at least a 1,001 millibar low in southern Georgia. And then when you get into later in the day on Sunday, it's got another 96 millibar low in eastern North Carolina. And then you can see here it moves up to the northeast. And you do notice here, it does start to spread out. The isoballs start to spread out. That means that the track low is a little bit uncertain as you get to the northeast. You got some events a little further east, you got some events a little further to the west, you got some events in the middle. So that can really determine the snowfall potential for areas up to the northeast. That's something we need to watch for as well. We'll watch the trends on that very closely. One thing I want to look at here as well is the mean snowfall accumulation. This is one of the key things when it comes to, well, not really for snowfall forecasting. I mean, I know this is a snowfall forecast mean, but it also tells you where some of the heaviest of the snow is going to be, and where the better confidence level is also going to be as well. This is what it tells you. And you do see here, really in the purple colors is where we have pretty good confidence, especially in the pink colors. That's a very impressive agreement. Varies in the pink. Southwestern Virginia to western North Carolina. It's got a mean accumulation of almost 15 inches. And this is only a 10-to-1 ratio, so I cannot imagine what the catch area ratio is going to show. If you guys don't know what that is, basically what a 10-to-1 ratio is. 1 inch rain can equal 10 inches of snow. Now, it's not like that for every event. The liquid in the atmosphere will be different for every event. And where this kind of comes from here, it's really the combination of how cold the temperatures are at the surface and how much liquid's in the atmosphere. The more liquid in the atmosphere and colder temperatures, higher the snowfall rates would be. So if that's the case, maybe 1 inch rain could equal 15 inches of snow. And that's just for example there. Keep in mind that. So don't be surprised. Honestly, I think some of these snowfall amounts are going to be higher than what it shows. But then again, either way, this kind of tells you where the better confidence is going to be, at least for the Gfs Ensembles standpoint for now. And you can see here, it's over a pretty large area as well. And here's the ensemble side of things. Wrong product. You can certainly see here, you got some models a little further southeast. You got some models a little further to the northwest. So there is still plenty of time for changes. That's something to keep in mind of. We're still a couple days away for the event, and there's still a couple more days of some more changes. Well, it's a couple days out. There's still plenty of time for changes, especially when the models do not have the data of what they need to be a little bit more accurate, or in other words, have a better idea with the system as well. We should have a much better idea with the system here tomorrow whenever the models get the weather balloon data from the northwestern U.S. as well. And eventually at that point, that's when we'll have the best idea on the system as well. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button. If you do like my channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications to never miss an upload. If you've got some questions about this, put the comment section down below. All right, you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.